everybody.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Nightlight Stories live reading on Facebook.
Yes, that we do we've been doing every Sunday night. So
For the last, what is this, 4 in a row now?
this is going to be our 6th.
What?
Yes.
6?
I know.
Well, okay,
I know.
so you are,
Miss Mel.
and I am Mr. Chris, and we do a podcast called the Nightlight Stories Podcast, which you can check out at nightlightstories.net.
Yes.
Now, what do we got going on this week, Miss Mel?
Well, so our camera's here.
Oh, yeah, right.
We always have to point to where
I
our
always
camera
seem to
is.
want to look to this side.
We always look to the opposite side of where it really is. But we're talking this week. We're going to be reading live The Farm Girl and the Feather. And I said that to our son, who was 14. He said, a classic.
Well, so there's a quick story behind The Farm Girl and the Feather.
Oh, there
Miss
is?
Mel. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I can recall specifically why I wrote that story and what the story was behind it.
Okay.
The first draft of it. Of course, we write it together, but
Yeah.
I was the one in this particular story that came and said, I have this story I have to put down.
Yes.
I
That's
remember
typically how it happens.
it was many years ago, and it was a Friday night. And I don't think you and the kids were around. I think I was home by myself. I don't know if you were out at some sort of party or who knows. Maybe you were visiting.
Toddler party.
Maybe you were visiting Mimi and Papa,
Okay.
grandparents. But I know what was happening to me is that I came home frustrated that day.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was feeling frustrated. And what I really wanted to do, Miss Mel, is, let me tell you, I was frustrated because there was someone in my life that was seeing things differently than I was seeing things.
Right.
This person thought that a way to solve a problem, you needed the new, fancy, bright, shiny thing rather than use what you have. And this person and I kind of went back and forth, not in a nasty way, but still I was feeling frustrated because this person wasn't seeing my point of view. It's sort of like if you're a kid and you're constantly saying, I want the new toy, 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 and never really being satisfied with the toys that you already have and not really playing with the toys you already have. And so I was feeling frustrated. And when you feel frustrated, when I feel frustrated, I know a strategy that helps me is to create. So I said, well, we're working on the Nightlight Stories podcast. I'm going to create a story. But I know other people have a different strategy. They might, like Maggie.
I go for a run.
You go for a run. You work on your body, right? I know our daughter, Maggie, she paints, right? She creates something. She something that wasn't there before. She might write it out. Well, and that is also our son, right? Our son is he likes to write. So he likes to write like I kind of like to write in that regard. So create something that wasn't there before. Do something with that energy rather than stew on it and be angry and frustrated.
And take it out on everybody around you.
Yes.
Don't want to do that.
You don't want to go and slam the door for no reason or
communicate.
Make something.
Yeah.
Make something with that energy. And that's what I did here is that I wanted to tell the story of someone that used something in a way that you wouldn't expect to solve a problem.
Okay.
And that you didn't need the bright, new, shiny toy to make yourself happy. You needed something that was already available. And that's when the story was born.
You know, Mr. Chris, I was thinking about what you were saying earlier because you had shared that story with me. And I was thinking it's very similar to students and kids in school that sometimes it's hard to get across to the adults in the room that there's other ways to do things or other ways to find that solution to the math problem or see that different viewpoint in the classroom, whether it's with your peers or even your teacher if they've been teaching a really long time, right? And so a way that you can do that is just keep communicating, keep sharing your ideas, being really positive. And maybe sometimes if you're pushing too much, to back off a little and give them time to think. And you think too on the other side.
Yeah, I think just when I went and I started writing this out, that helped me get my ideas out, helped me think about them, and helped me feel like I was communicating even if I couldn't solve the problem immediately.
I understand.
Taking a step back. I also find asking more questions and coming in and saying, hey, you have to do it my way, can often be a good strategy. Just saying, well, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? That can be another strategy. So
I did want to take a second to say, hi, Brittany, and hi Beth, and hi Travis, and hi Preston. So Preston that's a fun story.
Mm-hmm.
Let's tell that story real quick. Preston Couples, you're our superstar. We met Preston at separate times, but Preston Couples was Mr. Chris and I's very first principal that we ever worked for in Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he credits himself with introducing us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he was with us from the very beginning of our friendship and our love story, and so he watched from start to finish, and we are still in touch with him all the time.
Thanks for watching, Preston.
Yes. So
this is because of you.
Yeah, right. It's your fault. No. I'll talk to you later. And then Beth was one of our also worked at Hillside with us. So thank you for
in the
being
library,
here.
Beth. Mm-hmm. That's when we were there.
Yes.
Beth got another job later, but
I know. Super important. So tonight I'm going to read The Farm Girl and the Feather. And when I'm going to, our son, our 14-year-old, wanted to let us to let you know that it is a little bit longer of a story. So that's the beauty of it being live now. And then I post them on our YouTube site. And so if you go to the nightlightstories.net, on the side, you can click on the YouTube link and it'll bring you to all of our stories. Miss you too, Beth. And you'll see all the stories. So that I've read aloud so far.
I think there's also another warning that we should tell people about, and that most of our stories don't have scary monsters, but this one does have a monster in it. It's not too super scary.
It's not super scary.
So I think it's fine for most kids to listen to, but you might want to listen to it first, or go listen to the podcast and then come back and watch the YouTube video if you're at all scared that your own child might be like a little bit timid about this. But it is really not that.
It's no. I read it earlier again, and my voice is my voice for the monsters.
It's just like our Mojo stories don't have monsters. This one does. So
yes.
If you're used to it,
I'll be watching at bedtime. Tell Britt to read to you. So,
all right, Miss Mel, I'm going to head out so you can have the whole studio to yourself. Okay.
Thank you for joining me. It's always fun to
You're
catch
welcome.
up with you, bud.
Yeah, awesome too. Remember those strategies when you're frustrated. Create.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Mr. Chris.
Bye, Miss Mel. Good luck.
Thanks. Okay. So I positioned my computer today. I'm trying a new thing where I'm going to be reading so that I'm closer to you guys. Okay. So last week I had the actual book that was produced for us, but this week we don't have a book for this one. So I do apologize about that. So it's just me. Sorry. So The Farm Girl and the Feather. Are we ready? Okay. I choose the spinning axe of triumph, shouted the knight, her voice echoing through the armory like a ballista. It's the newest, finest, most magical weapon that anyone has ever laid eyes upon. I'd be a fool not to choose it. Two squires picked up the axe off the hooks of the armory wall and brought it to the knight. With the back of her hand, she motioned them away, and the squires backpedaled into the surrounding crowd. The knight swung the huge axe over her head in an arc and then twirled it in the air. She snarled like an angry badger as she set it to a series of militaristic motions, mimicking a mock battle. The axe glowed white, leaving a trail of radiant light in its wake as it sliced through the air. With each swipe of the axe, the burly knight bellowed, "Ha!" and "Ho!" and "Ha!" When she was done, she slammed the hilt down on the ground and exclaimed, "This is the weapon that will slay the troll." A troll? The crowd cheered their approval with excited calls of "Kill the troll!" and "Monsters beware!" The queen, a stout woman with her hair pulled back into a tight bun, shuffled forward and bid silence. As the crowd's murmurs subsided, she said, "Are you sure this is your choice? Of all the weapons in the summary, you believe the axe of triumph will be the weapon to slay the foul beast that eats our livestock, raids our villages, and tramples our crops?" "Of course I do," the knight said, bowing before her queen. "With this axe in my hands, victory is assured, and I will claim the reward." "Indeed," the queen said, conveying both confidence and curiosity. "For your sake, the sake of the kingdom, and the sake of my son, the prince, who will someday be king, I bid you good luck. For if you defeat the beast, the celebration will surely be grand, but that will be but a drop in the well when compared to the celebration we will have when you marry my son." The prince took 2 awkward steps forward, removed his feathered hat, and nodded at the mention of his title. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he looked at the woman in front of him. Her eyes seemed to be unnaturally close together, separated by a rounded nose that looked like a warped strawberry, which sat on a face that was as wide as a watermelon. It reminded the prince of a warthog he had once chased as a child, except the warthog did not have a hideous scar along its left cheek. "Good luck," he said weakly, nervousness stamping like runaway horses. I hope you don't die," he finished quickly, fingers twirling the brim of his hat. The knight scoffed, snorting through her nose. The indigent sound sent a clear message that crawled up the prince's spine, which simply said, "When I marry you, I will be queen, and you will do what I say." The prince trembled at the thought, but resisted the urge to run far, far away. Instead, he nodded politely and slinked back to his mother. "Now, before we adjourn, I will call upon the court one last time," the queen announced. "Is there not another who would like to choose a weapon with which to best the troll and earn the prize of marrying my son?" "Of course there isn't," the knight shouted, pumping the axe in the air. "I have the best weapon, and I cannot fail." The crowd erupted in cheers and raucous calls of "Trout's the troll, and the axe of triumph will be triumphant." The prince was the first to hear the tiny voice trying to cut its way through the bluster of excitement. "I'd like to choose," he thought it said. It was faint, barely audible, but he swore on his father's grave that he heard it. Then it came louder. "I'd like to choose." "If there's no one else," the queen called over the crowd, "then we shall wait this night's return with the news of the troll's demise." The prince heard the voice for a third time, its sweetness ringing in the air. "I'd like to choose." Grabbing his mother's coat, he whispered in her ear, "I think I hear another." Shocked, the queen waved her hand to signal silence, and the commotion subsided. "I'd like to choose," came the voice, echoing off the walls like a chorus of chiming bells. The crowd behind the knight parted, and a teenage girl came through. Her hands were folded in front of her, like a monk in prayer. She wore dusty, tattered robes and faded brown sandals covered in dirt from the field. Her skin was tanned, no doubt from hours of toil in the sun of a farm tending crops. Her black shoulder-length hair looked like it had been cut with a sharp rock. In places it was matted, as if it had never been touched by a brush. Her eyes were cast down upon the stone floor in front of her, as if the sight of the queen would blind her. Once beside the knight, she made her proclamation again. "I'd like to choose." At the sight of the farm girl before him, the prince's heart began bucking in his chest. "You are no warrior," the knight spat. "What chance have you? I have the armor, I have the skill, and most of all, I have the axe." "I'd like to choose," the girl said, her gaze fixed to a spot on the floor, her voice steady as an ox pulling the plow. The queen nodded and said, "You do understand the task at hand, my child. You are choosing a weapon to face a ferocious creature, not seen in these lands since my husband was a very young man. Once you choose a weapon, you'll have to hunt the creature down with it. Are you sure you are up to such a task?" The girl nodded and said, "Yes, my lady, I'd like to choose." "So be it," said the queen, stepping aside and motioning toward the wall of arms. "Choose." Looking up, the girl pointed toward the prince and said, "I choose the prince's hat." A wave of mutterings rose from the crowd. Stunned, the queen shouted, "Do not be so bold as to waste your queen's time. Now choose a real weapon or be removed from this room." "My lady," the girl questioned, "you said I could choose any weapon in the armory. Is that not so?" "Indeed," the queen said, slamming her tongue on the roof of her mouth. "Then I choose the prince's hat," the girl said, gesturing to the purple pointed hat the prince fiddled with in his hands. "You wish to have my son's cap?" the queen asked, confused. "This is no game, my child." "That is my choice," the girl said with confidence. "You said any weapon in the armory. The hat is in the armory." "Indeed," the queen said, motioning to the two squires. "It is certainly an odd choice, but it is your choice to make. Give the girl the cap." The two squires shambled forward, taking the place of on the prince's side. The prince grinned at the girl, inwardly hoping she knew what she was doing, and handed his hat to one of the two squires who marched it forward. Bending down on one knee, he presented the hat to the girl. Once in her hands, she turned it over, inspecting it. She ran her fingers across the lone feather, jutting backward from the brim. "It's a peacock feather," the prince offered. "My father gave it to me as a present when I was very young. It holds great value to me. Please see it returns to me intact, if you will." The young prince's lips quivered with hope more than anxiety. "You're a fool!" the bullish knight chortled. "Put that away and go home before you get killed." The girl ignored the jibe and instead tucked the hat into her robes. "I will take good care of it," she said to the prince with a slight curtsy. "Are you sure you do not want a sword or spear or lance or even a dagger, dear?" the queen said, finding a hidden pocket of patience. "We have many other fine weapons to choose from." "I'm sure," the girl said. "This will do." The knight and the girl left the next morning, meeting at the gate of the castle. According to reports from some of the neighboring villages, the troll made its home in a cave in the forest just north of the castle. The journey was about a day's walk. The girl walked alongside the knight, but neither spoke a word to each other. The knight broke the silence when they reached a mound of boulders outside the entrance of the cave. "The troll is in there," the barbarian knight said, pointing to the mouth of the cave with her new axe. "I can smell him. Stay here, out of my way, so you don't get hurt. I don't want to have to worry about saving you while I'm killing the beast." The girl looked forward, not saying a word. "Good then," the knight said. "Stay here while I charge." The knight took off, axe raised, running straight into the darkness. The girl heard loud grunts and heavy breathing coming from the cave, but the darkness made it impossible to see what was happening inside. In a matter of seconds, however, the battle was over. The girl heard metal clank on a rock, followed by a series of thuds and ending with what sounded like a splash of water. Then there was silence. Without warning, the axe of triumph shot out of the cave. It sailed over the girl and crashed into a fir tree, splitting in two before becoming lodged in a chunk of granite. The girl stood up from her position behind the boulder facing the cave entrance and walked forward. The knight had the light of the axe to help guide her in the distance. And in this darkness, the girl's hands folded in front of her, marched into the cave holding nothing. Once inside, the light dissipated, swallowed by the darkness. The stench of wet rot permeated the air. The girl marched onward into the filth and the vile smell, unfazed, concentrating on her task. After walking a few hundred yards, the cave widened into a large chamber. Inside, the patches of moss surrounded lime green stones that gave off a dim luminescence. Shadows from the faint glow of the crystals were frozen like paintings on the wall. As she stepped in the room, the girl heard the rush of water. A few more steps revealed an underground river flowing through the center of the chamber. The turbulent water rushed from an opening in the cave wall, ran through the middle of the floor, and disappeared into another dark opening. In places it tumbled over jagged rocks, causing a swell of rapids. The sound of the water crashing onto itself as it careened over the rocks echoed through the chamber. There, with her feet in the river, was the knight, her back propped against a stalagmite. She sat, stunned, blinking her eyes repeatedly, trying to clear the cobwebs. The girl was about to call the knight when she felt warm breath tickle the back of her neck. It was thick and moist, like a dog panting on a hot summer day. Calmly, the girl turned around to face the creature. The troll glared down at her with fiery red eyes. Its long, pointed nose was covered with bulbous mounds of black and green boils. Clumps of brownish sludge covered its blistered, dark green skin. Vapors steamed from its nostrils. It grinned, showing its rotten teeth. The girl unfolded her hands and said, "I have something for you." The creature stood, waiting, hands ready to strike. The girl placed her hands in her robes and removed the prince's hat. Slowly, she raised the cap into the air over her head, offering it to the troll. The troll's eyes locked onto the hat, and its face changed. The dastardly grin turned into a bright smile. It began clapping its hands and stomping its feet. It looked like a child receiving an unexpected present. The girl rotated the hat clockwise, the fabric on the hat sliding between her fingers. Then, with a ginger touch, she plucked the feather from the hat and let it slide into the sleeve of her robe. The troll hardly noticed, its gaze transfixed on the purple gift as it bounced up and down. "For you," the girl said, offering the hat to the troll again. The troll's hands, each one twice the size of the girl's, encircled the cap. "For you," she repeated assuredly as the troll took hold of the hat. It examined it for a moment, as if it had to take in its size and color, and then raised its arm to place it on its own head. The girl, seeing her opening, made her move. In one fluid motion, she reached up her sleeve and pulled out the peacock feather. Then she waved the feather back and forth and up and down in the troll's exposed armpit. The troll howled in laughter and reflexively brought his arm down. When it did, the girl switched hands and tickled the troll's other armpit. Ew! The troll bellowed again, shaking the entire cave, and slammed its arms to its side. Like a ballerina, the girl leapt behind the troll and tickled him every place she could reach with the peacock feather. The troll's laugh was like thunder echoing off the walls. It twisted to face the girl, laughing heartily and uncontrollably as it did so. The girl wiggled the feather under its chin and then on the side of its neck. When the troll threw up its hands to cover its neck, the girl assaulted his armpits once again. Back and forth his arms flew up and down, and the intensity of the laughter grew until he dropped the hat. With one kick, the girl sent the hat flying between the troll's legs and onto the bank of the river, the brim dipping into the edge of the water. The troll, tears in its eyes from laughing so hard, spotted the purple flash between its legs and leapt for it. It landed on its belly, stretched out for its new prize. It cradled the hat with its massive hands, snatching it from the brink. The girl took 2 steps forward, showed the troll the peacock feather, and then used it to tickle the bottom of his feet. The troll howled in more laughter and rolled over to get away from the feathery onslaught. It toppled into the river with a giant splash. The strong current swept the creature downstream and out of sight, forever lost in the underground water slide. When the girl and the knight returned to the castle, they were met with much fanfare. Trumpets sounded when they saw their approach, and a crowd rushed out to meet them. A squire ran off to alert the queen and the prince of their return. They were issued through the great hall where the court's physician attempted to examine the knight. Of course, the knight refused, pushing him away, stating that her head was fine and that she had experienced much worse than this in the past. When the queen arrived, she took her place on the throne. The prince stood beside her. She waved his hand to silence the crowd and said, "Well, brave knight, tell me, were you successful in your quest? Has the troll been defeated?" The knight stepped forward and said, "Aye, ma'am, the troll is no more." Cheers burst from the crowd like steam from a geyser. The queen allowed the people their moment of celebration and then waved her hands to silence them once again. "Congratulations, good knight. You were true to your word, and as a prize, you will become the future queen once you marry my son." The prince swallowed hard. He looked at his toes, wishing he could crawl between the cracks in the floor. "Nay," said the knight, "I cannot. It was not me who vanquished the troll. It was the young girl." The surprised murmurs from the crowd filled the chamber. Can you believe it? The prince nearly fainted with relief. The queen looked astonished, but regained her composure quickly. The knight shouted out over the crowd, "She saved my life!" The knight continued, recounting the story of how she charged into the cave, was clobbered by the troll, and was doomed to be its next meal. She explained how the girl used the hat to trick the troll, and the feather to tickle the troll until it fell into the drink. She showed great courage and even greater wisdom, the knight said, looking at the queen, but nodding at the girl. "I can learn much from her." "Come forward," the queen said, beckoning the girl. The girl's hands, once again folded in front of her, took 2 steps forward. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out the feather. Like she did for the troll, she held the feather up and offered it back to the prince. The prince nearly squealed with delight. Behind her black hair, the girl grinned too. "Let it be known," declared the queen, "that my son, the prince, will be wed to the farm girl named—" The queen trailed off, realizing she didn't know the girl's name. "What is the name of my future daughter-in-law?" the queen asked. The girl looked up and said one word: Millicent. We hope you enjoyed the story. So, I would love it if you would take a moment. My allergies are crazy, so I apologize. If you would take a moment and you would draw for me one of your favorite characters from this story. So it can either be Millicent, or it can be the knight, or it can be the troll. However you visualize it happening, it could be the scene with the troll, or it could be a peacock feather. Peacocks are my fave. I love them so much. Peacocks and dragonflies are my two favorite things. If you could draw it or recreate it or make it on your computer or whatever, I don't care. I would just love to see what you create, because remember we talked about that in the beginning, is if you're bored or getting frustrated, or if you're tired, or if you really don't have too much to do, go create something. And I will share it on the blog for whatever I get from you. If you want to send it to us at nightlightstories@gmail.com, or you can post it on the blog at nightlightstories.net, or let's see, you could also post it right here on our Facebook page, and I'm going to make a post all about it. So let us know what you think. Let us know. You can give us feedback. You can create something for us. We'd love to see it. Also, I just wanted to remind you that we do Bright Birthday Wishes every week with our podcast, and I post all the Bright Birthday Wishes on our nightlightstories.net. So share with us those. We had done glowing graduation wishes, but now we're past graduation, so we're back to the Bright Birthday Wishes. The other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing some science experiments this summer, and we're going to be posting those live or with my son is going to be doing some, my daughter's going to be doing some, so we'll be posting those, and we would love to see what you guys do, or if you try them out, or how they come out. So, lots coming up on the blog for the summer. We're really excited, and I look forward to reading to you next week. Talk to you soon. Take care, be safe, and be well.